Oh, this one, I already put it. How is that possible? Oh, maybe for, instead of Gorgian, yeah, okay. That was a mistake. Okay, you were lucky. Okay. All right, let's get going. So all this stuff, even though it looks a lot, is it was more words than real subject, just to give you an idea in that sort of introduction module. What I've done is I've created a Figma material design module, which we're gonna sort of zoom through today. But what I've also done, okay, which is for your benefit, is I have okay, what I've done is I've created a playlist of videos for you, especially, all about Figma, okay? So everything that we're going to do today in Figma, I've already sort of recorded them, so you can go back to them, because it's, even though it's self-explanatory, the Figma, it's, it can be a bit daunting. So what I advise you to do is that after today's session, go back and study these things, because I think we should have a little bit of Figma in the quiz. So in the quiz, I'll ask you to draw something or do something with Figma, and there's various topics here which we will try to go today. But this is a reference for you, and you can always come and ask me if there is something unclear. So going back to SCU. Okay, so today we're going to talk about material design. Then we're going to open up our computers and try to do the collaboration setup. We're going to set up our team, our groups. Then we're going to, get into Figma, try to do some of the stuff. And this link of the videos is the link to that playlist. You can always go there and check some of these things here. Okay, so let's kick off with material design. So before we dive into material design, let's just this is going to explode. Take the attendance. So that's is that, are you Abhilash? You?
No, Hardik. Satya.
You are Satya. And you are Sravani. Okay, so before we dive into material design, we should just have an overview of the three different design, let's say, philosophies, right? The first design philosophy was skeuomorphism. Okay, skeuomorphism, basically, you have something on the screen that shows an image of a real-world object. So if you have a button, it really looks like the picture of a button. Okay, so for early users of computers, it was very intuitive to say, oh, this is a button, you know, I will click on here and something will happen. Oh, this is a rotating thing, so basically, you know, somehow it's an adjustable thingy, okay? But then obviously, you know, this is too clunky, it's very unmodern and everything. And we'll come to, you know, why this was dropped in the more recent years. Then came flat design, right? Flat design, you know, this is the evolution of Apple. This is from, you know, the early Mac to the calculator on these little Mac screens. Then the first iPhone calculator. You see the shapes of these buttons, you know, with that shimmer on the top, etc. Again, it's trying to show a three-dimensional, real-world button-type object, but in reality, it's nothing other than, you know, a place to push. So then it evolved into a flat design. So it's just circles and so on and so forth. No shadows, no depth, nothing. Flat design. And then this was obviously a bit too boring, and came then material design. And material design is basically, again, it's not a lot about shadows and so on and so forth, but basically if you have a button and the button is standing a little bit taller above the surface, its color is slightly different. You know, not a lot different, but slightly different. You don't do the drop shadows and so on and so forth. It becomes too clunky on the thing. And also drop shadow is massively expensive for the GPU, okay? So then came the material design. It seems to be a good balance between, you know, some features of skeuomorphism and also a lot from the flat design, okay? And, you know, why did we move away sort of from these things? Again, it creates an unnecessary barrier, you know, all these shadows and so on and so forth. It makes you think of the phone as something else, you know, like the calculator object. It makes you think like as if it's a real calculator, but in reality, it's a part of a screen of a computer, and it also makes it look more complicated, etc. And on the flat design, it's just boring, okay? And it doesn't. It makes it very difficult for you to differentiate between UI elements, and also the intuitiveness goes away a little bit. So that brings us to material design, and there is 6 components of material design. This is, you know, taken from Google, obviously. 6 components of material design. Let's start with color, okay? So color is a semantic property, which means you start with a primary color. Say this is my primary color. For example, you know, the real call to action button will be with this primary color. The text on that primary button or the primary color, the text on that surface is going to be with a color that's named on primary, okay? And this color is white. Then you have a primary container. Basically what it means is it's related to this color. It's a very light color. If you want a certain area to stand out, you bring the primary container, and if you want to write a text on it, you use a color value called on primary container, okay? And then by choosing a single source color, material gives you, we will do these things, you know, hands-on in a minute, gives these things to you, all the colors to you. Of course, you can customize, but it automatically creates for you a consistent scheme. Then elevation. So things have elevation in material design, and depending on the elevation, so if this is something that's clickable or clicked already and sitting on the bottom of the, you know, at the lowest level, it's slightly darker than the background. And if it's elevated, it's a little bit more darker than the background, but not that much. You have slight differences. That's how you give elevation, but not with drop shadows. Okay. So these concepts you should memorize, right? Elevation, color, and then icons. Okay, the most recent Material 3 did the icons with variable weight, variable amount of fill. Basically, this goes from a completely black and white type of icon to an outlined icon. I don't know what gray is right now. And then optical size is obviously this side. So, and then you have the outline version, rounded version, sharp version. In the sharp version, this ending is sort of cut. And in the rounded version, these endings have rounding. So in icons, you have a lot of stuff. And then it also specifies motion. For example, if you are, clicking this, with what motion should that, go from one to the other? These things are also in the material design. Then this thing is called hero animation. That's in Flutter. We'll do that, or maybe one of the groups will do it for us. And the last two are shape. So you also corners, specify the corners semantically, extra small, small, etc. And the very last one is typography. Okay? So typography, you have 5 typography elements. A display style, that would be like a really big font that you're putting somewhere on your app that's like really the advertisement. Headline could be, for example, big section separators. You go from, in music, I don't know, Latin, and then genre separators in a music app, for example, would be headline. Title would be the title of the song, right? The body would be the credits of the song, and label would be used for input boxes, little text, etc. So these are your 5 main text sizes that material gives you. And I think this is the general outline of the material design. Any questions on this? I want to go to Figma as quickly as possible. Okay. So we're only missing Abhilash, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Collaborating with Figma. I'll just run through the slides quickly, and then we'll set it up on our computers. Okay? So you create a Figma account. You can create it with your SCU Gmail account or some other account. Doesn't matter. Then from each team, one person from each team should become the lead, and they should create a team. Okay? They should create a team name, and you would call it your group, whether you're group 1, group 2, etc. Then you will add your collaborators, so you will put the email addresses of your team members as collaborators, okay? And then once all this is set up, you as the initiator or sort of group leader, you're going to create a file by clicking on like this. So you go to this group view, you create a file, and the others, all they have to do is that they check their email and accept the invitation to collaborate. So with that, let's get going. Let's set up a Figma account. Each one of you set up a Figma account and one of you from the team should create a group and invite the others. If you need help, call me.
Professor.
You're Lauren. Yeah, there is space now, so you can enroll.
Yeah, okay, but so I'm getting my form signed. The process is
There is a, so you know object-oriented programming, right? You've done Java or something like that. So you know object-oriented programming, okay. Then there is a team with only 3 people. Where is Priya? So that team is 3 people, and you can join that team.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay? So introduce yourselves to them, and then once you're in the system, I'll add you to that team on Canvas.
Guys, you see your school email? Yeah. It's LHU 3 LHU 3 at SCU.
Are you doing the invite?
And don't forget to invite me to your group, yeah? Martun, no. Yeah, martun@scu.edu.
Wait, your SCU one or your personal one?
It doesn't matter what it is, as long as you have space on it. Yeah, enter email addresses of your group members, also this one, so that I can see your pages. And call your team group 1, group 2, etc. so that okay. Who's the group leader here? You guys are one group. You are?
Yeah.
What's your name?
Jin Yan.
Jin Yang. Ma. Okay. Jin Yang. I hope I remember it.
Yeah.
You're putting the email now. Excellent. Okay. You guys are good? Okay. Who's the leader? Are you just the 2 of you? Oh, the 4 of you. Okay. Who's the leader? You are. Very good. Yes.
We have set up a group, but we put together add you.
No, just close it. now.
是一样的，
Okay, yeah, yeah, you're here.
Diagram's team
哦 这题目算是见了吗？见了。
Is there?
Yes.
Or maybe it's not possible. Is it possible? No, but maybe because it's a free thing, you're not able to add it.
Maybe you have to complete a project. But maybe your history of that notes and you have to do it.
I mean, were you guys able to add like 5-6 people?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Hey, we're actually
Okay, group 4 has invited me. Very good. Who's group 4? You are. Excellent. Okay. Group 3 has invited me. Very good. Six. Okay, this the Guram's team
Group 2.
group.
Group 2.
Can you change the name of it?
Yeah, we changed it.
You already changed it. Thank you. Okay. And there was one more, Priya Jain.
Yeah.
That says the project CSEN to
So I switched it.
You switched it. Oh, but this is a project.
Stuff from the pattern.
Is it supposed to be a team or a project?
I forget now. What did I put in the instructions?
Oh, whoops.
It was a create team and team members. It's okay for now. I mean, let's not waste too much time on this now. But CSEN 268 group 1. Okay, so my groups are, so there's group 3, group 2, group 6, group 4. I'm missing still a few.
Can you check your email now?
Okay, and Jason, group 5.
Tuesday was
No, I
స్వాప్ చేసినప్పుడు మళ్ళీ కమిన్ ఓపెన్ చేస్తే ఎంతసేపు పడుతుంది
వెంటనే అయిపోయి ఆల్మోస్ట్ 10-15 minutes అయిపోయింది.
ఇది కోర్స్ మారిపోయి ఇంకో కోర్స్
డ్రాప్ చేస్తే
2 నిమిషాలు అయిపోయింది స్వాప్ చేశాను అది కావాలా
రివ్యూలో
ప్యాటర్న్
ఒకసారి యాక్సెప్ట్ చేశాను మళ్ళీ
Okay.
accept చేశాను.
So the thing is, you should create a new team, and you should have your own
ఒకసారి
team separately without any people on it, right? So you should have two teams. So on the left-hand side, you should have the group, but also your personal. So now, because if you go to the group and you try to work on a group project, everybody will be working. Now, when we're learning Figma, I want everybody to be learning on their own. So if that's the case, then create another team just for yourself. If you accidentally invited people to your own team instead of creating a new team, then create a new team just for yourself so you can exercise. Yeah? Are we ready? Can we move on? Anybody need more time? Okay, let's talk about Figma a little bit. So Figma is currently the gold standard for prototyping, wireframing, mockups. I mean, it's the go-to tool for app development, but not just mobile app development. Sort of across the board, it's becoming a super powerful tool. So this comes from Brown University, from two students at Brown University in 2012. It was first published in 2016, and then within 6 years, Adobe wants to buy it for $20 billion. So you can imagine how important software this is to go from, first public software release to a $20 billion valuation. But because of antitrust regulations, it was blocked. So, and Adobe had to pay some breakup fees. And the other thing is, because of its dominance now in the market, Google and Apple are supporting it with their UI kits so that developers can seamlessly do things with it. So what are the features? So mockups, basically you have screens, but the screens are not just dead screens of images. The screens have clickable buttons, playable links that you can send to collaborators or clients. They can get the experience of the app, right? Not just static screens. Then a lot of the web type of logic, you've all probably done CSS, HTML type of things. So all the, centering, padding, this, that, all of that logic is being built in. In the first time I used Figma, a lot of it was not there. And more, all of that logic is getting there. And then what's also happening is that you will be able to spit out code that you can inject into your development environment directly from Figma, from a visual design. Then you have the libraries. More and more libraries are coming on Figma, plugins and so on, that help you with the development. One of the things that we're going to use today is this material theme builder and the UI toolkit, so material design UI toolkit. And so we will get the plugin Material Theme Builder, and in the Material Theme Builder, we will select a source color, and it will automatically change these colors. And then once all these colors are decided by the material theme, so all the color scheme is decided. And remember, on the color scheme, you have the light color scheme, right? The dark color scheme, and then various variants of high contrast, low contrast, etc., of the dark and light as well. So there's a number of color schemes that's embedded in the material theme. All of that is created, and then you get a file, a Dart file, that you can slap onto your project. Okay, we will learn how to do that in our Flutter file, but this is the most important thing because it's a hugely complicated file that you don't want to do by hand, and the Material Theme Builder does it for you, and then you just put it on your in Flutter, and then if you need to change it, you just recreate the file and put it in the same place, and that's it. So inside Flutter, okay, inside Flutter, we have these type of things, the light, medium contrast scheme. So the light color scheme, okay, is is for the light color, and the opposite is the dark. And then the contrast is another variation on it. And within Flutter, we will be able to choose this. And the moment we choose it, all the screen, everything will change to that, to those colors. And the same thing with the text theme. You create a text theme by specifying the body font and display font. And there's the equivalent on it on the material. Yeah, for example, how do we implement a theme in Flutter? So this is where we are effectively launching the app within the code, material app. And before the material app, we first create a text theme, right? And the text theme has a Roboto and Playfair display for its body and its display fonts. So the display font and the headline font are coming from Playfair display. The body font, title font, and label font come from Roboto. Okay? Now, this brightness, view of context, platform display picture, platform brightness, blah blah. So this syntax is basically, is your phone in light mode or dark mode? That's basically what it's getting. Okay, so it's getting a brightness value, and then you're checking brightness equals brightness.light. So you know this syntax, right, from Java or JavaScript. Yeah. So if brightness equals brightness.light, use this value. If not, use this value, right? So theme will be theme.light, and theme is this material theme object, which has all the different variants. It has the light variant, dark variant, etc. And then if the platform display, platform brightness is light, then use this theme. Otherwise, you use that theme, and the material app requires the title of the app, the theme that you're going to use, and then what is the home page? Where should I just go first? The home page is basically the screen where you will show some stuff. So this is a way that we build the theme into the code, right? So this is just sort of a teaser of you starting to think, from a coding point of view, of how we get all this information into the code. So in Figma, you have this material design kit. For example, it gives you a date entry dialog, right? All designed like this. All you have to, so when you are building your app and there is some place that you need to enter a date, you don't need to draw everything from scratch and put an input box and this button, that button. You can just drag and drop that thing. The thing you need to focus on is how do I connect it, rather than reinvent the wheel and draw this thing from scratch, right? So that's the idea with the design kits, that you use these elements. And something that we will look at is that these design kits, they are designed in such a way that you have these buttons, okay? But the buttons, what kind of buttons do we have? We have text buttons, right? We have solid filled buttons, with a dark color, or the primary color with a sort of a light color label. We have outline buttons, right? Or we have icon buttons, etc. We have a number of type of buttons that we come across. And what Figma does, it has this concept of a variant, okay? So it has a component called button, right? And then you bring the button onto the page. So for example, this thing has buttons. The default buttons on it could be text buttons. But what you want is, I mean, you're stylistically, you're saying, actually, I want the OK button to be solid. So then you go and select this button, okay? And automatically, in the design kit, a style property comes up. And in that style property, you will be able to select, if it should be a filled button or whatever button. And this way we do. So in the videos on YouTube, all of these things are explained, and we will try to get into some of this today. But you can imagine how easy it makes to design things, okay? You should really do as little as possible in putting your screen. So in your app, if you need somebody to enter a date, right, and you're designing your app in Figma, you just pull one of these things from the design kit, and that's there. Another thing in Figma, okay, is prototyping, meaning the transition from one screen to the other. So what you do is that you have this screen, which is, I don't know, title, headline, something. And then when you click on this button, it will show this kind of screen, okay? In Figma, what you can do, you go to the prototyping mode, you select this component. The moment you select that component, it gives you that sort of blue circle, okay? From that blue circle, you drag to the screen that you want it to go to. And then once you drag that, this blue line, it has some options, like how should I go? It's basically asking you, how should I go? And what is the interaction with this button? It could be a slide on it, it could be tap on it, it could be various things. In this case, it's an on-tap event on that button. It navigates to this screen, example/gallery mobile, this screen. And how should it go? Instant. You can, of course, also go with an animation, and in that case, it wouldn't be instant, but animation. But this way, if you've designed this for your client, you have designed these pages, you can also give your client a click-through product. Okay, so this is how it would look, basically. Once you publish this prototype in Figma, the client will be able to see this. Okay, and this is super easy to do. He gets the first screen. He gets the first screen and then clicks on the download thing, and it gets the second screen. It's just a simple interaction. The other thing in Figma that's sort of used is, for example, overlays. Okay, the overlay is for example, you click on this little button, right, and it will pop up a date overlay. Okay, and how it looks in real life is this. So the resolution is bad because I made a GIF file from the video, and it's just low resolution. But the idea is that you click on that button. So now when you click on it, it tells you that the action is over there with that blue thing, so that it tells you where to click. So you can only click here. When you click there, it opens this, and it's the cancel button that's going to shut it down. So so that's the idea of the prototyping. Okay, has anybody seen this before, or you have? Okay. Oh, auto layout is empty. Hidden layout. Okay, doesn't matter. Cool. Any questions so far? We are now going to open up Figma, but individually, right? Not the group project, but your individual project. And we will start coding things. Okay? So, have you opened Figma? Okay. So the first thing is adding the UI kit and adding the material theme builder into Figma. Okay. So I go to libraries. Okay, libraries, and in the libraries you'll see here the UI kit. You click on the UI kits, you'll see the 3 UI kits. Okay? Just put this one, just add this one, not these 2. Just add the Material 3 design kit into your Figma. Okay? Can I move on? Okay, so now we've added the Material 3 design kit. So the next thing we want to do is we want to get the material theme builder. So the material design kit is all these pre-made components that we can drag and drop. The theme builder is the coloring stuff, coloring and theming stuff. Okay, so for that I go to plugins, manage plugins, and search plugins. So go to plugins and search plugins. I guess you could use save here if you want.
Wait, so for the library, if it's already added, then do we just leave it like the material?
Yeah, if it's already there, it's fine. So material theme builder is in there. So when I look at my plugins, I have the material theme builder here. Okay, and my libraries, I have already have the Material 3 design kit added. Has everybody done this? Okay, very good. Cool. Now, let's get the material theme. So let's go to plugins and launch Material Theme Builder.
No, material.
Has it launched? You go to plugins, Material Theme Builder.
I think this is a one.
Yeah.
It's like it's all like flow chart. Now it is.
Yes? Can I move on? Okay, so we've now launched the Material Theme Builder, and here you will have probably a purple color. I have already set this thing, so that's my source color for this project, but just click on the source color and play with these numbers. So one thing that you should be aware of is that in apps, what is the most common color that you see in apps? Huh? Well, white is the background, but for the action color, the call to action button, you know, like the blue, right? Why?
Good amount of contrast, something like that.
It's a good amount of contrast, and most importantly, it's not red.
Yeah.
Okay, why it's not red? Because red is, you know, universally the error color or something else. So you want to always, reserve red for the error color, right? So if you put your theme into a reddish color, your theme color as a more primary color to a reddish color, you will have problems then with the error and the understandability of your app. Of course, green is another choice. And then once you go to more dull colors like gray, blue-gray, and so on and so forth, that of course makes the impact of the most impactful elements, you lose that, right, for the call to action button. So the primary color, you should stick to something like blue, green, purple works, because purple still gives a sufficient contrast to red as the error color. Okay, so change your color and click on apply, and then click on update. Shall I do it again? So you go source color, you change your color, you apply it, so my color is now a little bit lighter, and then I go update. It may take a few seconds for it to update all these things.
Is there like a hex code or something?
What's that?
Is there a hex code, or can you just go to like a color palette?
So just click on the source color and slide the things as you
There's no like specific.
No, just whatever you want to put. The idea is to change the color basically for you too. Okay, so it has, in my case, it's changed it. And what we need to look at is basically, has it really picked up the stuff? So can you see this local styles on the right-hand side? Do you see the local styles? Okay, go to material theme. Go to the color styles. And in the color styles, there's the source. So that's the seed color. So the seed color should be the same as your source color. And then you have key colors, which is the primary. So primary and seed, they are the same. And then you have the reference colors, like primary and so on. And then these system colors. So the system colors. Okay, so that's the most important thing, the system colors. So in the system, remember, we have the light and dark, and then with the light and dark, we have the medium contrast and high contrast variants. Right? So we have six different variants in the system. The default one is the light. So let's just click on light, and in light, we get this primary on primary, and then primary container on primary container. Okay? Secondary on secondary. Secondary container on secondary container. So that logic is basically whenever you are designing a button, an object, or something, if you give the background primary container, the text on it should be on primary container. Okay? Then whenever you change from light mode to dark mode to high contrast mode and so on, everything automatically follows through, and your UI is going to be good. Okay, so these are these semantic colors that we talked about. As you go down, there is a few more complicated ones, but the really important ones are these on the top, primary on primary, and surface on surface, etc. And it's sort of understandable, the logic, right? Okay, so this was the color styles. In text styles, we didn't change the text style, but we can quickly do that. In text style, remember we talked about 5 different type of things. There is the display, headline, body, label, and title. If I go now in the material theme builder to the text portion, right? Remember on the code we had the Playfair and Roboto, the two fonts. So for display, headline, and titles, oh, I thought title was also on this one. Okay, for display, headline, and titles, I can choose Playfair, display. And for body and labels, I can choose Roboto. Okay, so now I'm changing my text theme and clicking update. Okay, so now for all the different contrast schemes and color schemes, etc., it's updating these fonts together with their colors and so on and so forth. So we'll have to wait for that. So the Playfair display is a serif font. The other one is a sans serif font. Who doesn't know what's a serif font? Everybody knows. You know? You don't know. Okay, so the fonts that have little hooks on their sides are called serif fonts. The fonts that are sort of flat are sans serif, without serif. Sans serif comes from French without. So without serif. Serif is just like Times New Roman, has little hooks. It's a serif font. Okay, so the fonts have come in. Let's have a quick look at the font. So the display font, it gives you already a taste for the font. So this AG, you can see these little hooks. It's a serif font, this Playfair. But for the body, we have Roboto. You can see this AG here. That's a sans serif font without those little hooks. So these are your fonts now, all created for you based on your font. And we're now done with the material theme. Okay, everybody clear on this? So we are now done with the material theme, and we will now go applying this. Okay, I'm gonna show one more thing, and then we'll take 5-minute break, and then we should just march on. So the next thing is, let's go and look at our material design UI kit. These elements with date selectors and so on. Okay, and that you will find under assets. Okay, and here there is a drop down, and the drop down gives you all the libraries, or you can select which library. So the local components are the ones that you've designed. Material 3 Design Kit is what we have installed on the thing. So try to see if you have this view. You should have clicked on assets, and you should see Material Design Kit here and these type of things. So some of them could be closed, some of them could be open, but you should have this view. Do you have that view? Okay, so if everybody has that view, I'll go and, for example, I select, I think the sliders, date, where was the date? Date picker. Okay, let's go to the date picker, and let's go, for example, I click on this one. Are you watching? I'm clicking on this one, and it gives me this thing, and I say, okay, very good. Insert. It's inserted. Now, what happened to my colors? So this is the default color, right? What we need to do, unfortunately, we will have to apply the theme colors back to it. The way we do it is that we select it. Okay? I select the object. Then I go to this button called Resources. I could also go to the library, but Resources and Material Theme Builder. Plugins, Material Theme Builder. So I open up my Material Theme Builder again. Now, this thing, what kind of a color do I want to give? Do I want to give a light or dark? And then any other variants, okay? So all of that is done in this step. So I want to give it a light color with the default variant. Click on it, and it changed the color, okay? Not only did it change the color, but it also changed the font, as you can see. So the font has become this Playfair display font. Okay? If I want to see, basically I can take my entire screen, everything on the screen, select it, and then go and click on the dark mode. So while this is selected, if I click on the dark mode, it will show me what it looks like in the dark mode. And again, as you can see, it's a very consistent design. In one flick, we've gone from light to dark without having to change any colors, doing anything manual. So that's the power of this tool. So that's why it makes a lot of sense to invest a little bit of time to learn this technique, right? It will save you, hours and hours and hours eventually when you do something. Okay, I'll go back to the light mode and close the theme builder. So now I have a date picker in my desired theme colors, in my desired font for the text theme, and this is now a component that I can easily use in my design, whatever I'm designing. Okay, all right. Let's take 5. If you have any questions, come and ask me now, and then we should continue with this Figma. Is this so far? Do you like it? Is it fun? Yeah, good.
Tertiary color any colors?
Yeah, I don't know where.
What is this? I don't know why it's
రేపెళ్ళి కొనుక్కోవాలరా ఐఫోన్స్ అది ఒకటి వచ్చాయి అదే మాకు కదా ఒకటి వస్తుంది పంజాబ్ దగ్గర ఉంటుంది మాది బ్లూటూత్తో పనిచేస్తాడు కాకపోతే అది దానికి పెట్టా కదా ఇప్పుడు అది గెలికి దీనికి వాడేటప్పుడు దీనికి గెలికి మళ్ళీ దానికి గెలికి జనాలు కనబడుతున్నారు
I'm really sorry, this is the first time I'm seeing this.
లాజిటెక్ అదే
I mean, once you get used to it, it's fine. I mean, I can navigate like this, it wouldn't bother me, but
This is the correct
I saw that you can create like.
Actually, it's not too different.
వాడికన్నా టెలిగ్రామ్
Like you have here assets.
అదే నీకు టికెట్ ఇస్తారా ఫ్రీగా
When you assets, when you click on material design kit, you have the same assets. You know, if it just looks different, and I don't know why. I mean, I really don't know. If you can go to Chrome, then you can follow everything easier.
But then
నేను వస్తాను
it's more assets.
Material thing,
This Figma design. So hard to use. Oh, that's so tiny.
change color.
Oh,
Click on the light mode. I mean, if you go onto the dark mode, then click on the dark mode. You have to select things to.
It's time to get a new laptop.
Yes, definitely.
I was. I thought like I can still like I was.
So when you are working on your app, okay, the reason I told you about this Figma collaboration thing is that you don't have to be all at the same place all the time. You can be working on the thing, and one of you could be working on a screen and on the other screen, and it allows you to do that, right? You don't have to. But then everybody has an overview of what it is. It uses a common theme and so on. That's why it's really nice to have this collaboration tool.
I can move it.
No, no.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, if
No
we're
bother.
just let us know.
No, no.
Yeah, we're just having a social. Sorry.
Okay, we'll get going. So if you look at this playlist for which you have the link, we've done the UI kit, we've built a theme, we've changed the theme, and now we're going to power on with creating components, variants, and so on and so forth. Okay? I mean, I'm not going to be doing exactly these, but as a reference, you can always go back and watch these videos or the class recording. We have a few options. Okay. So I delete this. And I have my okay. What I've done is I've created another page called components. So why don't you do the same? Why don't you create another page called components? And these are some components that I created earlier for the videos. And we're going to create the sames again. Okay, so you've created a components thing, and what I want to create is something like this. Okay, it's a component which has a text input field, a button, and it sits in a frame. Okay, so that's what we're going to create. Over here, I go to assets, in the material design kit. And in assets, find the text input field, text field here. Okay, so guys, create a new page. So in layers, new page called components. Okay, and then go to guys, we said 5 minutes for the break, yeah?
Sorry.
This was much more than 5 minutes. Okay. Very good. Okay, so components. I go to assets. I find my text field. I drag my text field here. That's what I do. So I have a text field in there. Now, the other thing I need is a button. So I go up in my design kit. I go to buttons, and this is the simple button that I have, and I drag that over there as well. Everybody has this already?
What were the other two things that you had? What were the other two like assets that you had?
There's no other two. This is the one, the text field, and this is the button. This is so far what we have. So drag them like this. Okay? So you drag them like this. Can I move on? Okay. So now, what I want to do is I want to select them. So I'm selecting them, both of them, and I want to frame it. I want to put it into a container. And the way I do it is that with the right click or the 2-button click on Mac, you see this frame selection. We're going to frame it. We framed it. So now it's in a frame. And if I go back to the layers view, okay, back to the layers view from assets to layers, you will see this frame here. And this frame has a button and a text field. Okay? So we have this frame. Now this frame, obviously these two things are sitting sort of as a fixed objects. But ideally, in a if this is going to be like a line item in a mobile app, depending on the device size, this should stretch. Ideally, the button should have a fixed size, but this thing should stretch. And ideally, the distance between this one and this one should be, let's say, 20 pixels or something. Okay, so that's the ideal scenario. But when I framed it like this, everything looks wonky. So what is very useful in Figma is this thing called auto layout. Okay, so now I'm going to enable auto layout for this frame. So the frame is selected, not the inside things. The frame is selected. Okay, the frame is selected, and I click on auto layout. When I did the auto layout, did you notice what happened to that label and the other one? The label got in the same line as this one. So let's do Control Z. without the auto layout. The moment I did auto layout, the label got in line with the input field. Okay? Now, it still looks ugly, right? It still looks ugly because this distance is too large. So this distance is 59 pixels. I want it to be 20 pixels. How can I do that? It's simple. It's this field here. I change it to 20. These two things, horizontal padding and vertical padding, they are the padding of these objects to the edges of that frame. Right now they are 0, so right now they are touching the edges of that frame. But if I'm going to give the frame a color, and if I want this frame to be holding these containers in a nice way, I need to make a padding. So that's where I change the padding values, and I can do padding, let's make it 15. So there is a horizontal padding 15 and vertical padding 15. Okay? So now the way these two things are sitting, so you see these little blue lines? These are showing the padding of these objects. Maybe actually make it 20. Okay? Now this padding can either be given horizontal, so symmetric both sides, and vertical, symmetric both sides, or you can use this, and you can give individual padding to the left, right, top, bottom. Okay? So if you do that, you can give individual paddings to each side of the object. If you undo that, it's a symmetric, horizontally symmetric vertically. Now we have this padding. What am I missing here from my other component that I had here? What is missing from this to here?
A background.
The background. Okay, so let's fill the background. The background, I'm going to go to the fill, and I'm not going to choose an arbitrary color, am I? What am I going to do? I'm going to choose one of the styles that we've already specified with the material theme builder. To do that, you go to these dots, and conveniently it gives you all these styles. So this is a container, and if it's a container, it can either be like a surface, or, for example, a primary container is a good thing. So we can give it a color as a primary container. Okay, so that would be the primary container for this thing. The other thing I'm missing here is what? There are two things I'm missing here compared to this.
The color of the label.
The color of the label, and also this one. That's one thing. The other one is?
The rounded one.
Rounding. Okay. So I select my frame, and the rounding on the frame is here. Okay? The corner radius is here. It applies the corner radius all around. If you want different corner radii, then you do independent corners and you can set them differently. And why would you use different corners sometimes? Anybody have an example?
For transitional button that just transitions into a different screen that blends, like a transitional page kind of a button. That's
No, I'm talking about corner radii where I don't have the same corner radius on that object. What would be an example of a corner radius?
The whole frame is already towards the corner.
Huh?
The whole frame is already towards the corner.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, the example I want to have is like a file tab, right? If you want to have an object that looks like a file tab, then you have the upper two corners with a radius, the bottom corners without radius, for example. That's where it would come handy. Okay. So let's get rid of this and let's give it a corner of 20. Okay. Now we will change the color. To change the color, remember, I'm selecting the object. What do I do next? What do I do next to change the color? To apply my theme, because this is not my theme. This purple is not my theme.
Go back to the plugin.
Go?
Go back to the plugin.
Plugin, yes, exactly. I'll go back to the plugin, run material theme builder, and apply the light mode, and finish. Okay? So now this is in my colors, and it's perfect. Okay? But this is still not a component. And there's actually one more thing that I want to show you. So, what will happen if I enlarge this component to the side? What do you think will happen? Nothing happened, right? I enlarged the frame. For example, I'm displaying it on a very wide screen. The frame has enlarged itself, but the text field hasn't filled the space, whereas normally you would expect the text field to fill and so on. And to do that, you select your text field, and your text field's horizontal size, okay, will give you a fill container option. Normally it won't give you, but if it's sitting inside a container, then the horizontal size can give you a fill container option. That's sort of like we will see in Flutter, that's called flex. If I give the fill container, what will happen is that the label will be pushed to the side, and this text field is going to grow, but respecting the padding and also respecting the difference between the button and the text field, okay? Because this frame has an auto layout which says between the objects make a 20 pixel, so this red box is between the objects, and to the edges of the frame make 20 pixels, right? So those are the constraints. And now I have an object inside which has a size, which has a horizontal size condition that it should fill and push the label basically to the side, okay? Is that clear? Okay. So now I have something that's pretty cooked, that I can say this is my component, this is a text field and a button and as a thing, but it's still not a component. To make it a component, I select a frame and let me change it. So this would be the CSEN 268 text field button component. Okay, so that would be the name of that frame. And to make it a component, I just select that and go to this button here, create component, and click. Okay? You give it a name. You give it a name, and then you select the object, and then click on that button to create a component. And then we'll see in a minute what it is that this thing does. Okay, so if I zoom out, and I can drag my component together with the other ones. So this is where all my components live. You know, I don't want to do my designs here. This is sort of my toolbox, right? The components is sort of like your toolbox, and you design your tools here, and then in another page, you will do your design of the app. So Here now I'm on this page where I'm going to design a few things. So I already have something, but let's take an empty space, okay? So now I'm going to get an instance of that component. How do I get an instance of the component? The component is now in my asset pool, right? It's part of my assets. The material design kit appears under assets, and the local components appear there. So I go select my local components. Now this text field button component is here. I can just pull it, and it's here. Go back to layers. So why don't you do that first? If everybody's done it, we'll continue. Pull the component onto the screen, and then go back to the layers. Select this, and you see this diamond shape. Okay? The diamond, empty diamond, or yeah, just that outline diamond, it means it's an instance of a component. Okay? What that means is that if you make any changes to the component, this thing will also change. So let's make a few copies of this with Shift Option drag. Okay, I have 4 copies of this component. 4 instances. Now let's see if I change the original component, this change is going to follow through. So let's go back to the components page. Can I continue? So you've created a few more copies like this. You don't have to do 4. I mean, just 2 is enough. Go back to the components page. Select your component, okay? And right now, when I select the top level, I'm selecting this frame, right? That's the outside frame. And it shows me it has a corner radius of 20, etc. So let me change the corner radius to 5 to make it a bit more pointy. So I've changed my component design from a rounded shape to a more pointy shape. Okay, and let me see if my instances follow through. So my instances have followed the component. Okay? But in some cases, you may want to break away from that component, right? You don't want to be tied to the component like a slave. That every change is coming through. You want to create something else. In that case, we have this option called, again, right-click. Right-click on one of those instances and select Detach Instance. Detach Instance. So when I detach instance from this object, the diamond shape of that frame disappeared. Right? It becomes a frame, and this things with the bars, it basically says it's a frame, but in auto layout mode. Otherwise, it's this square thing. But if it's in auto layout mode, it looks like this. So now it's been detached. So now let me go back to the component, original component, and make some changes. Okay? And change the corner radius to 30. So I've changed the original component to 30, and I'll go back to my instances, and what do I see? The instances, so this one, and this one, they are instances of the component, but this one has broken away, has been detached from that component. So therefore, any changes that I do to the component doesn't come to this one. This is just like a, on its own type of design. But there is one thing you need to pay attention to. In each one of these things, some of the elements, like this label and so on, they are coming from the material design kit, and they are components themselves. So a component will compose of components, and they will compose of components, and so on and so forth. But here, I've detached the top level of the component, but inside, I'm still using some components from the material design kit. But just to recap what we have with the component. With the component, we have reusable objects, which, if I make a design change, will follow through all through the UI. So if you've designed it with 10 pixel radius, this thing, and you've used it in many places, and then you change, well, actually 20 looks better. If you've done this methodology, then you can make that change very quickly. But if you've actually copied, created a frame, and copied that frame all over the place, and now you want to say, oh, actually, I want 20 pixels, or your client says, actually, I want 20 pixels. You have to go individually to each one of them and change it. But if you work with the component, you plan a little bit, then you don't have to go through that work. With one go. You can change. Any questions, guys? Okay. So in the videos, we've done the creating components. So there is something called variants. We're running out of time. Okay, so quickly on variants. So these are the instances which I'm now deleting. I don't need it. Go back to my component. So this is my component. Now I want to make a component that has this and this, but it also has an explanation text field or explanation text somewhere. Or maybe let's do a component which has an icon in front. Okay? Make it simpler. Make an icon in front. I right click onto the component. Okay? Select main component and add variant. Okay? So now this looks like we have two of the same component. Now, let me go to the assets and find a avatar or something in the material design kit. The generic avatar. Okay? And let me drag that avatar onto the podium. Okay? And what I need to do is I need to bring that avatar inside here. Now, who remembers what kind of frame this was? Is it a regular frame, or is it a, what do we call it, this frame that organizes things inside automatically? Huh?
Container?
Auto layout?
It's a container, but it's auto layout, right? It's an auto layout, and the way we specified it, remember, it's a horizontal auto layout. This thing stretches itself to fill every possible gap, but it has constraints. The two things have to be 20 pixels, the sides have to be 20 pixels away, right? So that's the conditions of that auto layout. So now if I take this avatar, if I drag it in front of that text field, the avatar on the left-hand side should have 20 space. Between the avatar and the input field, it should be 20, right? The avatar should be aligned with the middle of these things, right? It shouldn't be sitting on the bottom or on the top. So that's what I should expect. So let's see if I will get that. Okay, so I take the avatar, I drag it, and I put it here. And it did exactly what I expected to do. So because this is an auto layout, it organizes the objects in a horizontal way with a 20 gap and so on and so forth. Perfect. Only thing we're missing here is the coloring. Immediately I select my object, go to Material Theme Builder, and apply the light mode. Okay? So the avatar, interestingly, the avatar background happens to be a primary container. So now there is no contrast between the background of the avatar and the thing. But for our purposes, doesn't matter. Now, has everybody got this? So we have now two components, one with an icon, the other one without the icon. Let me select the first component and focus over here where it says current variant. Select the first component and focus on current variant. Let me select the second, so it says property 1 default. The second variant is property 1 variant 2. Okay, these are not very meaningful things. So let's make them meaningful. So this property 1, we call it has icon. Okay? Property 1, we call it has icon. For this one, the has icon, the value. So the first one is the property, and the second one is the value. So both of them have that property, but different values, right? The variant means they look very much similar, but they have a property which is slightly different from one to the other. And we give the name of the property has icon so that it makes sense to us when we look at it. Okay, we don't want to call it property 1. And this one has no icon, and I can simply say, instead of default, I can say no, has icon, no. Okay, and this one, the second component, now it has icon property, the value is yes, not variant 2, it's yes. So now I have two components, and they have a property called has icon, and one of them has the value yes, the other one has the value no. Okay? And this is the text field button component. So we didn't create a new component with a new name. We've added a variant to a component. So this, even though they are distinctly two different visual objects, in my library, they're going to appear as a single line. And then once I import it to my design, I'll be able to select the variant that I want. So let's go to Assets, Local Components. Okay, and let's go to the page 1. This is my design page, right? This is my design page where I now pull the instances. So the component is the master object, and instance is basically I make a copy of it and put it on my screen. So let me go to my assets, the local components, and this CSEN text field button component, I drag it onto the screen. Okay, so where is the icon? Where is the icon? So the icon is here. When I select the component, over here, it shows me this property, has icon. So the one it brought, or the one it's showing on the screen right now, is the is the component with has icon off or has icon no. Okay? I can quickly change it to this. And it now displays the other variant. Okay? So there are ways to do this with multiple variants. For example, think of buttons, right? There is the completely filled button, outline button, and text button. So these are all, shape would be a variant. But then again, size would be a variant. Large, medium, small button would be another variant of the buttons. Then buttons with icons would be another variant. So then you may have multiple properties on one component that you can specify. Yes.
So can we also do like a disabled and like enabled button?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, but this, right?
Yeah. So let's just quickly see this. Go through the material design kit button, right? Let's pull this button here. So this button has these values as properties. So it's styled. So these are the available styles. Outline button style, state, enabled, focused, hovered, disabled. Now I made it disabled. It may have an icon. Okay, I can edit the label. Okay, and I can also change the icon here if I want. The icon could be a count circle. Okay, so it gives you all this flexibility. This variance concept gives you all the flexibility. Obviously, the material design kit objects, they're very well thought through and created. So it has all these things. But that's the idea about the variance for you to design things nicely. Now, any questions on these things? Yes.
When you were talking about when you can link, like say for on tap, you tap something and it transitions you to a different screen.
Yes.
So
I'm going to show that. We haven't done it yet.
Yeah, but my question is, like, for example, if you have a different variant of components and say that button is missing in a specific variant, then does the live action button no longer work?
No, you shouldn't think about it like that. You shouldn't think about it like that because the variant of your component is not going to change with the buttons. I mean, you shouldn't think about that like that. Right now, we're just designing the UI, and while we're designing the UI, while we're putting the bricks in place, right? For example, think of you're tiling the place, right? When you're tiling the place, you have the regular tiles, but you have also like corner tiles or something that are thinner or triangle shaped or rounded shape or something like that. They're all tiles, but different variants of tiles. So while you're doing it, you can you drag tiles onto the thing, and then some of them you change the. It's like that. It's not to do with the transition. So it's okay. So we're now going to look at this scrolling concept. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit complicated. Not complicated, but this is, it'll take a few cycles in our head. But before that, let's just quickly do the prototyping thing, okay? This prototyping concept. Okay. Let me put this component into an iPhone, okay? So I go find a frame. Instead of drawing the frame, I can select an iPhone model here. iPhone 14, 15 Pro. Okay, so the size of this thing actually is the size of an iPhone Pro screen. And what I can do is I can now pull my component inside this this screen. And let me do it like this. Okay. I've pulled my component into my screen. So on my iPhone screen, I only have this. I could easily bring in some top bars and bottom bars. Let's do that. App bars. Okay. So let's bring a top app bar. Pull it in here. Make sure that you align the edges. Bottom app bar. Okay. Align the edges. Has everybody done this? So from frames up there, you bring an iPhone 14, 15. You pull this inside. We size it. And then from the assets, material design, from the app bar, we bring the bottom app bar and top app bar into the page. So now we have something that looks like an iPhone screen. Okay. Now in the prototype mode, this is the prototype play present mode of this thing. So it will show this screen in a bezel as if it's an iPhone. So let's click on this, see what it looks like. Okay, it doesn't look that nice. The reason is it is trying to give me a bezel of iPhone 15 Pro Max, whereas I have an iPhone 15 Pro. So if I change that, now everything fits nicely together. But it doesn't give me what I was doing. Sorry. I should start with this. So iPhone 15 Pro. You will not have the other thing, so when you do it, it will go with this one. So this is the prototyping thing. So when you are looking at your final product or when you're doing your Figma presentation in class, you're going to bring up this thing, and then any functionality will happen here. Okay? So obviously nothing is working. So if I click on this label, there is a hover effect. So I get the hover effect, but other than that, nothing. Also hover effect on this floating action button, on this label, and also I think on that drawer thing, I get the hover effect. On the input field, I can do this. So basically things that have life, you get sort of the feel of it, but they are not connected, okay? And what I want to do before finishing today is, okay, let's close this, okay? Let's make a overlay, right? Let's make a, first of all, yeah, let's make a date picker. Let's make sure that this label gives us a date picker. So let's bring a date picker from somewhere. Date picker, this one, okay? That's my date picker. What I want is this button, the label button, to fire up this date picker. Okay? But before I do that, let me harmonize my UI, right? What do I do now for my theme? I go to resources and run material theme builder, light mode, and that's it. So now my theme is done. Okay, so pay attention. To get to the prototype mode, to connect this button to show this, I go to prototype here. Okay? In the prototype mode, not in the design mode, but prototype mode. Then I select this instance of the component, right? This is not the component, this is the instance. Now, when I select the component, it gives me the blue button on which object? So the blue button or the blue circle is on the frame, which means if I connect anything to that blue button, anywhere I click on this frame is going to fire something up. But my objective is what? What should fire it up? The button itself, right? So therefore, I need to go and actually find the button inside. And now I'm going to connect it to that button. Whatever I'm going to connect, I'm going to connect to that button. What you can do is you can simply drag and do this. So that button is now connected to that. But it's now asking you how I should get connected to it, you know? It's an on tap, which is fine. You know, I want to tap this button. And then, so that's fine. But I don't want to navigate to that screen. I want that screen to pop up on top of the current screen. Yes? So then, instead of navigate to, I click on Open Overlay. And the overlay that is opening is this model date picker, so this one. Okay? And how should it open it? Instant? Should it dissolve? Or should it move in? Okay, let's make it move in from the left with this milliseconds of time, and with this, these are all the different curves for animation. So when you guys do the animations, you will come across these things. And the other thing is, you know, when the overlay comes in, should it be covering to the left-hand side, to the bottom, or right in the center of the page? Okay, center of the page. If I click on the outside of the overlay, should it close? Which is a normal thing in iPhone, right? When something pops up, you click on the outside, it immediately closes. You don't have to search for that close button. Yes, close when clicking outside. Should it have a background? You know, overlays, when they come, the background of the screen usually gets a little bit darker, right? Okay, so let's add a background. Now what that means is it has a zero color, meaning it's a black, but it's only 25% opaque. So it's a transparent black color, which means it's going to darken the screen but not completely black it out. Okay? So all of these things I can set here. And this is now done. So my overlay dynamic is done. And what do I need to do? I need to now present the prototype. Okay? Let's go to, the only thing is I should select this one because this is where I want to start from. And click on present. Again, it doesn't look good, so I need to change it to iPhone 15 Pro so that it looks nice on the screen. Now, remember from earlier, there is a way in the prototyping, there is a way to find out which areas are clickable, right? If I click anywhere on this thing, the clickable areas are going to shine in this light blue. And as you can see, the only thing that's shining is that label button, right? When I click anywhere else, nothing happens, but it's telling me, you know, this is where you should click. Okay, so let's click on that thing. And what comes in is exactly, you know, from the side comes the date picker. It has darkened the screen in the back. And, you know, I can do whatever I want to do with the date picker. Now, I can change things on the date picker. Nothing will happen. The cancel and OK buttons are not going to do anything. The only thing that's going to work is what?
Dismissing.
Huh?
Dismissing? Like dismissing it?
How?
By tapping outside of it.
Outside tap, right. If I tap outside, it will dismiss it. There is also the way to make it dismiss with this cancel button. So let's have a look. Go to prototype. Go and let's find the cancel button. Right, the cancel button. And cancel button, let's attach something to it. So you see the cancel button, I'm pulling it, and it's giving me the option to, from here, it's giving me the option to cancel the overlay or close the overlay. Okay? I'm pulling from that cancel button handle, and then it's giving me the close overlay. So on tap, it closes the overlay. Okay, and let's see if it worked. So outside tap is going to close the overlay, but also